Hi, my loves. Okay, so Raven Relics asked me, this was like back when I was taking questions for content, things that you guys wanted to see. Well, one of you guys who goes by the name Raven Relics was asking for a tutorial on how I shuffle my cards, which I thought was like the sweetest request. So this is going to be a tutorial of how I shuffle my tarot cards as well as oracle decks. I guess you noticed in the videos, I don't know if it was a, what's it called? A video reading, or if you just saw me doing this on one of my lives, but you saw how I shuffled the cards and you wanted to know how I do them so seamlessly. So I'll show you how I do it, and you can practice, and practice makes perfect. Now, I will say the type of cardstock on a deck will make all of the difference. If you're working with a deck that has more of a sturdy cardstock, or it's like brand new, it is a little bit more harder to shuffle. If you have a deck that is easily bendable, or if it is a well-worn deck, so this is actually my very first tarot deck that I ever owned, then it'll be easier to shuffle. So this is a standard size tarot. This is the Rider Waite. And when I shuffle the cards, I cut the deck in half. And then you guys will see me, like, I will bend it. I cut it in half and then I flip one upside down. That is simply to ensure that my cards stay all in the same direction. I don't read with reversals unless the reversals come up on their own, which sometimes it happens. But usually I trust my intuition when I read, that if a card wants to be read in reverse, meaning if it wants to be read upside down, with the opposite meaning, then I'll just intuitively touch on that. Now, this deck is all over the place. It is like some cards are upside down, some are upright. But if you ever see me when I'm cutting the deck and when I'm getting ready to shuffle, yes, I do flip one side upside down to make sure that they stay in the same direction. But for the sake of this video, these cards are all over the place, so it doesn't really matter, but that's what I do. So then once I have both halves in my, let me move this a little bit over here. So once I have my halves in my, hopefully that'll stay, in my hands, then what I do is I hold it so I have like two fingers, pinky finger and my ring fingers on the end of the card. The opposite end is the thumb. And then the sides, I usually have like the middle finger and the index finger. And I bend it in half. I usually put the index finger and curl it into the back as support. And then you just start to let it go from the thumbs so that they overlap. And then you could either push them together and then do it again. Or if you want to get really fancy, let them overlap, and then you grab with your thumbs, you hold them down, and then you kind of just like make an arc with your fingers, however your fingers go, and then you let them fall. And that's the little bridge. So sometimes you guys will see me do that when I'm shuffling in my videos. And it's just a little fancy thing. I actually taught myself when I was a little girl. My dad used to always have poker cards all over the house, and he taught me how to play solitaire, and like we would play Go Fish, and we would play just card games. But I used to like to just shuffle the cards. So it's kind of funny because when I look back at that memory of me as a little girl shuffling, learning, teaching myself how to shuffle the cards, and my dad was teaching me how to shuffle, and my dad taught me how to do the bridge. It was like I was preparing myself for this life that I'm doing now of being a reader. So it's kind of like, it's a sweet little memory. So yeah, that is how I shuffle my cards. I think it's called the riffle shuffle, but that's how I shuffle. Now, another way that I do shuffle, you guys will also see, is sometimes I will hold the cards in my hand and I pull them from the back. You could do it from the front, but it's actually feels easier to go from the back. So from the back, you kind of grab, I usually grab like half, and you just let them fall towards the front. And you kind of use your thumb to kind of guide the cards so they don't go everywhere. And that's what I do. So you guys will kind of see me do this kind of shuffle, which is, I believe, this is the waterfall. Or you'll see me do some of the riffle shuffles. And then, you know, so I kind of do both. I've just evolved my shuffling to do both. And then, you know, you pull cards and blah, 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 blah. Now, if you have a deck that is a little bit larger, so the Oracle decks tend to be larger, bulkier. Sometimes the card stock is a little bit not as shuffle friendly. They're thicker. You could see that a typical tarot size deck versus an Oracle deck, there's a size difference. They're usually wider. They're usually just larger. So my tip for you guys, especially if you have little hands, like I have little hands, for the most part, like little hands. What I like to do is I will cut the deck in half. Okay. And I shuffle the same way that I would do the tarot cards, but from the side. And it just makes it easier because it's easier to hold them in your hands sideways, right? Sideways, but you're shuffling sideways versus trying to like fit your hands to go lengthwise of the cards, which this deck isn't as big, so it's not too big, too hard for me. But if your deck is huge and you can't do the typical shuffle, you could shuffle them sideways or hold them sideways and do the waterfall. That's the easiest way to shuffle, right? Now, people will ask me, Rachel, when you're shuffling, how do you know when you're done? How do you know when it's time to pull cards for your client? I go with different ways. Sometimes the card will fall out. So sometimes you guys will see me do a reading and it's like the card will, boom, it'll fly out. That's a sign. So I will trust if a card falls out or flies out on its own, that one wants to be read. Another way is I just feel it. So sometimes I will feel when I'm shuffling for a person, it's like something within me is just like, stop, you know? Sometimes it's a card that sticks out like this. So if there's a card that sticks out like this and it doesn't want to go back in, I usually will pull it for that person. And it's kind of funny because it's the same card. So there's that. Other times when I'm shuffling for clients, and I used to do this when I first started to read tarot cards, I would shuffle the number of letters in their name. So that was kind of like one little way that I was like, I don't even know who taught me how to do that. I think it was one of my very first tarot mentors. But I used to shuffle. So let's say if your name was Rachel, there's 6 letters in the name Rachel, at least in the way I spell it. So I would shuffle 6 times. So you could do it that way. I did that for a while until I started to practice more intuitive reading. So then I would just intuitively feel called. Sometimes you could pick a number. I like to work in 3s. But like, I think my favorite way to shuffle is just shuffling until I get cards that stick out, and then I'll read them for that person. But there's no right or wrong way to do this, you guys. So hopefully this helped. I hope that you enjoyed this little tutorial, and thank you, my love, for asking this question because I'm sure other people were curious. And yeah, anytime you guys have questions and you want to see me, you know, to do a tutorial of something or discuss something or make a video, let me know. I'm always here to help you guys out, and I love doing this kind of stuff. So let me know. And until then, I will see you guys in my next video or my next post, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.